Our gospel reading for today comes from Luke chapter 6, and I'm going to be reading verses 20 to 22. These are, I need to warn you, not easy readings. They're easier than the ones that come just after this, but on their own, they are not easy. This is what Jesus says to his disciples, not to the general public, I should add, not to the world, but to his disciples, those who call themselves followers of Jesus. He says these words, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who hunger now, for you will be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, when they exclude you and insult you and reject your name as evil because of the Son of Man." These verses should remind us of the Beatitudes that we get in Matthew's Gospel in far greater detail, but in a sense, this is a summary of them, Luke's summary of Jesus' teaching that what makes us blessed, what makes us blessed, is, in a sense, the hardships of life. This is perhaps what we could call true religion, a true religion, as Jesus understands it and teaches it, and as he modeled it himself, is based on poverty and hunger and grief, exclusion, suffering, dislocation, rejection, judgment, humiliation, death. This seems to be the kind of life that Jesus has called us all to. This is not the religion that is preached in all churches. There are those churches that preach a different kind of religion from what Jesus teaches. They preach a religion of prosperity, and that things should go well for you, and that the sign of God's blessing is that you should prosper, and that your name should become great, and people should respect and recognize and adore you, that you should have the fanciest cars and the most expensive clothes, and you should drink the most expensive champagnes and whiskeys, and that you should have cash to burn, literally. This seems to be the gospel that some churches are teaching. Not us. Not us in the Anglican Church. This is not what we teach. We teach a gospel of smallness and of poverty and of emptying out and of laying oneself down and of service. This, we think, is what is the true religion that Jesus came and illustrated for us. We get one example of this in James chapter 1, verse 27, where he writes, "Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world." Isn't that an interesting summary that James provides? In many ways, it's a summary of Jesus' life and his teaching, that what we are called to is to take care of those who are poor and marginalized, and to keep ourselves in some way separate from the world. Not disconnected, because he doesn't say separate yourself from the world, but he does say, do not let yourselves become polluted by the world. So we live in the world, but in a way we try not to breathe its air. We try rather to breathe the air that Jesus provides us. And so the life that Jesus lived was one that fits these Beatitudes. He lived a life that was small, infinitely small, because he was God, the second person of the Trinity. He was literally poor. He had nothing. He lived on the goodness of other people. He was itinerant. He moved from place to place. He had no home. And he spent his life taking care of those who were poor and marginalized, who were ill and distressed and persecuted by the religion of their day. This is the example that we are given. There are many in our parish who are literally poor. and who struggle to make ends meet. I'm not saying that you must remain like that. I don't think Jesus is saying you must remain in that state. But in some ways it is blessed, because it does help us to separate ourselves a little bit from the trappings of this world. And there are members of our community who are wealthy and who have money and who are able to afford good things. And that also is not bad, so long as we are not attached to them. So those of us who do have money need to be generous, need to share freely, need to give to those who are in need, need to not build up and hang on to and revel in our wealth, but rather use it to build God's kingdom. We are perhaps most called to humility, and to smallness, and to having less. This is the true religion that Jesus teaches us in the Gospels. May God give us the courage and the wisdom to decide how to live our lives in a way that emulates him.